In this tutorial, I'm going to give you some tips to get you started with logo design. So, logo design is meant to be really simple. You don't really need to make anything very complex because if you look at any logo, just go to Google and Google logo and look up images. Everything in here that first pops up is really straightforward and simple. Logos are meant to be just simple images that stick in your head and that are easily recognizable, like the Apple logo. You have the Pepsi, KFC, CNBC, stuff like this is really simple. The Batman logo, of course, all of this is really simple. So when you're doing your logo design, it can be as simple as you want it to be. So to get you started, let's go into 3ds Max and I'll show you how you can set up your scene to make something really simple. So let's say I want to do something like a text logo, something really simple. So I'll take a text item here from the shapes and I'm going to make it in my front view. And I'm just going to call this logo design. So something simple like that. And now I want to make this solid. So I need to go to the modifier tab and add an extrude modifier on top of this. So go into the modifier drop down and click on extrude. So I get the text extruded. I'm going to take this off of wireframe into shaded mode. And I'm going to turn off the grid so I don't see the grid. And with this, I can kind of go through here and kind of choose some different text that I want to do. So something like this. Let's try using this one. Something really fancy. I can use this for my text or my logo design. And let's say I want to add uh, something like a circle in the background. So I want to have it show the negative space of this. So I'm just going to add a quick circle in here and change the radius up a little bit. Something like that. So it's somewhat centered on my logo here. And I'm going to make my text something like black. And let's make this a solid fill. So I'm going to also add an extrude onto this. And now I want to put this back in the y-axis because I want to have this sitting behind the text, not on top of the text. So something like that. You can see it's right behind the text here. So now I can kind of go in here and maybe add some mini circles in here. So I'll take this circle here and I'll copy this and I'll change the radius of this. Say something like, oh, go down the circle, go down the radius, and I'll just kind of bump this down a little bit. And I'll just make this another color and I'll move this forward so it's on top of this. And I'm just going to have this kind of go down and in a sort of an arc position. So I'm going to decrease the size of this as it goes down. Something like that. Or maybe I'll have this come right here and bring this over here so it kind of makes an arc up here. You can see maybe I'll add another circle in here and make this one slightly bigger. So something like that. You see I get sort of a cool design in there. Something simple. It doesn't have to be really fancy. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use, let's say, a star. So I'm going to make a six-sided star in here. And I'm also going to make a fill for this. So I'm definitely going to use extrude again just to make a simple shape in here. And I want to put this sort of on top of this here. And I want to change the radius of this definitely. So radius 1 and 2. So I'm gonna just scale this whole thing down. So maybe I have something like this, and I want to center this to this object. So I'm gonna, whoops, not that button. I hit Alt Q to isolate it by mistake. I meant to hit Alt A to go to the line tool, and I want to align this to center on the X and the Y position. So got that there. So now I have a quick and easy, simple logo design. Um, Maybe I want to add a line going through here, maybe like a squiggly line or something. So the way I would do that is I would make another rectangle, make a rectangle tool. Just use that. Say I have a line going here, and I also want to extrude that. So now I have a line at the bottom here, something like that. Maybe I'll go back to the line and add some actual points on this line. So maybe I will use a modifier to kind of bend this around a little bit. So using a bend modifier, I want to bend it on, let's say, the Y. And I need to add a little bit more definition into this line here, just so that I get a little bit more room to play around with. So I'm going to increase this corner radius here, and I'm going to turn off the auto smooth and go to interpolation, turn it off with optimize. I'm just going to crank this up a bit, make this a little bit more, so I have just a little bit more to play with. So now you can kind of see that my shape is still there. There it is. So something like that. So maybe I have a quick logo design, something like that. So this can serve as my logo. Now let's say I want to render this out. Usually logos are set up against a white background or something like that. So I'm just going to change the colors a little bit here just to kind of make this pop a little bit and make this white. Maybe make this like a red or something. So this will be my logo design. Now, usually logos are up against something like a white background. So I want to change my viewport background in here and actually show this up in the render. So I'm going to hit 8 on the keyboard, and for my environment background, I'm going to change this to white. In order to see this in the viewport, you need to not right click, but you need to go to your viewport labels here under your shading mode and go to viewport background and environment background. Now it'll show the environment background here. So if I wanted to, let's say, get rid of this and use just this as my logo, that works too. But I'll leave this where it was, and I can do a quick render of this by hitting F9. Now, nothing is showing up right now, so I need to go back and fix this up. So let's say I need to put a camera in here to use as my, let's say front render. Yep, it's not rendering out. So maybe I need to put a camera in here to kind of see where my logo is. So I'm going to put a camera in here, and I'm going to drop this into the front view, make a free camera, drop it in the front view, and I'm going to bring this back like so. And I'm going to make this view my actual camera view so I can see what my camera is seeing. And I'm going to show safe frames so I can see exactly what my camera is seeing. And now I want to show shaded mode. There we go. And now I also want to go back to my environment background. So I'll change this to environment background. So this will be my view for my logo. And I'll turn off viewport background for this because this is just kind of a preview. So I'll put it back on solid color. So now when I render this out, this should show up. Let's check. Go to render, production. Nothing is showing up. So we need to go and figure out why nothing is showing up. So go to the render settings. I'm going to change my render. Okay, my render is set to mental ray, so I can actually see this. And what I probably need to do is add some depth to my actual extrusions here. So this object here, I need to give this an amount to 1. Make this 1. So I'm going back to the extrude amount and I'm setting it to 1 for all of these objects in here. Because right now I have the amount at 0, and that's probably why it is not showing up in the actual render itself. Extrude amount and 1. There we go. So go back and render this again. And there we go. The logo is actually showing up. So now I want to make sure I don't have any lighting information in here. But what I want to do, I want to brighten this up a little bit. So to make it a flat color, so I'm going to go to my lights and I'm just going to drop a standard light in here and I'm going to put an Omni light right here in the scene. Now, instead of making this have shadows, I don't want this to cast shadows at all. I'm going to go to Advanced Effects. I'm going to make it ambient only. So everything renders out as a solid color and there's no shading on it because I don't want any shading on my logo. So there we go. That's looking a lot better now. So you can see quick and easy way to do logo design. So it doesn't have to be very complicated. It can be something as simple as this. Now, sometimes you might want to go and maybe, let's say, animate your logo. You can do that as well. So I want to show you my logo design, and I'm going to show you how I went about animating this. I'm just going to load this up real quick. All right, so here's my logo design. I have a white background just like I showed you before. So I went to the environment background and made it completely white, like so. And if you play my logo right here, you can see this is my logo. I have a silhouette of one of my characters, and she animates and walks through, and she flies up. So this is the start of my logo here, and I have some more parts to my logo. If I go to my manage layers and turn on my logo layer, you can see this is the rest of my logo. My logo looks like this. So if I go back and hit play again, you can see the character walks up and this shape starts to emerge and then shape comes up and then the text start to fly in like that. So all of this is done inside of 3ds Max. And I'll show you how I went about doing this. I'm going to go to a different view here so we can kind of see everything. I'm going to turn off realistic, put it on shaded mode. So pretty much this is my logo here. You see in the beginning of the logo, I have these objects not visible. So I animated the visibility of these. So that's why they kind of look like this in the viewport, because this is kind of a visual representation of an invisible object. So if I right click on this and go to object parameters, you can see that I have my visibility set to 0. So when it starts to animate, I have the character walking up, and I have two different circles here. I have a white circle and a black circle. Now the white circle is acting as a mask and it's hiding the black circle. So when the character walks up just a little bit, you can see the black circle start to emerge from the corner here. So I have the animate. I'm animating this circle here, just moving diagonally across, diagonally up. So all it's doing is just moving from here to here, and it gives that illusion of an arc. And with the white background, it completely mutes everything, so it gives an illusion of that arc there. And then I have the text coming up here. So I have two different things with the text. I have this little blue box that I'm fading in the visibility. So right now it's not visible and then becomes visible and it actually moves and scales up. So I have just a bit of animation on that. And then I have another box right behind it to kind of get that the fill color. So if I wanted to stroke around this, I have another object right there behind it, and that acts as a stroke. So all I did was duplicate this and scale it up. And now that's a stroke around this because you're only looking at it from a planar view. So I'm looking at it from here, my right viewport. So if I go to right viewport, when you see it from this angle, it looks like there is a border going all the way around. So a stroke. And then you have the little divider coming in here, and you have the 3D character artist kind of flowing in from left to right, well, from right to left. And this is my logo. It's really simple. It's just a character that I took and I made all of the parts of the character completely black so it looks like a silhouette. So when you're doing logo design, you want to use solid colors. So if I go to my material editor here, I have a bunch of materials in here, and I have mainly this is the black material that I use for the character. So I use just solid colors. Solid colors will do it, and in the combination with the actual light itself, when you're using the light, let's check out to see what kind of lights I'm using. Go to light lister, and I'm using V-Ray for this, so I have to use V-Ray light lister. So this is my light in here. I'm using a V-Ray ambient light. So just like I used the ambient light for the other scene we just did, this is going to be the same thing. I'm just going to use the ambient light so it flattens out all the colors and it takes away the shading. So to take a look at my logo, I actually have something I did here. So when I rendered out my logo, I separated into pieces. So you can see the little ellipse here. I separated that. I made that its own shape, and I separated the character here. So I have just the silhouette, and then I have just a rectangle in here. So I kind of went through my logo and I separated all the pieces out when I rented this out. And what I did was I went into Photoshop and I kind of pieced it all together and it looks like that. I went and I added a stroke around the character itself so it gives it a nice little border. And I actually brought everything into After Effects into another program where I did a bit of animation in it, and I'll show you the final result of this. I added sound and everything in this. So right here, here's my logo. So there you have it, class. Logo design, it doesn't need to be complicated like my logo. It can be really simple. You can just use text and simple shapes to get something really cool. So when you're doing your logo design, just take a look at on Google and just look at what other places have done and just try to do something really simple. It's not necessary that you animate your logo like I did, but that's just something extra that I want to do for my logo. So if you want to animate your logo, more power to you. I hope to see some really good logo designs. And if you have any questions, just email me.